Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Saturday, July 13th, 2024. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Saturday in Major League Baseball. First up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Detroit Tigers. Justin Robleski and Kiter Montero are your projected starters. This is a tough one because Montero's pitched well. His last couple of games is both quality starts in his last two games, both victories for the Tigers as well. And we know Robleski struggled in his Major League debut, giving up 4 earned runs and 2 home runs. But I also think that there were some redeeming qualities in that Major League debut for Robleski, and he did face a tough lineup in the Milwaukee Brewers. So the question for me is Montero going to get enough run support in this game for me to take a chance with the home dog? I don't think so. I'm going to roll with the Dodgers in this game. I trust their lineup more and even their bullpen in the end. And it may not be my favorite spot to take LA, but I'm going to take the Dodgers on the money line on the road. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Chicago White Sox. We see Luis Ortiz and Chris Flexen as your starters. Luis Ortiz has quietly put together a really impressive campaign in 2024, mostly featured out of the bullpen. He's only had 2 starts this season, but because of injuries, we now see Ortiz getting the start in this game. And you know what? His last start was against the New York Mets. He went 6 innings of shutout ball with 5 strikeouts, no walks, no home runs. He's only given up 3 home runs in 61 innings this year. He does a good job of keeping the ball on the ground, and I think he pitches well against a pretty weak White Sox lineup. And Chris Flexen, his ERA just below 5 on the season now. His last game against Minnesota was a quality start in the end, but it was still 7 base hits given up, a home run as well. He's given up at least 1 home run his last 5 games, and all those were losses for the White Sox in the end. I mentioned that the Pirates are off to a pretty good start against right-handed pitching in the month of July thus far, so I actually like their matchup here against Flexen. I think Ortiz pitches well enough, and I think the Pirates grab a win on the road. Next up, the Oakland Athletics taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. Mitch Spence and Tyler Phillips are your starters. Phillips, in his last start, his Major League debut for Philadelphia, went 4 innings of 1-run ball, 7 strikeouts against the Atlanta Braves. Now, the Phillies didn't back him up in the run support department, but he still pitched pretty well in that debut, and now he faces the Oakland Athletics. I think it's a much better matchup, especially because Phillips is a righty. The A's have been crushing lefties, but not so great against right-handed pitchers so far in July and in the last 30 days overall. Now, on the other side, Mitch Spence, his ERA at 4.29 on the season, hasn't pitched too poorly this year. That last game against Baltimore, not his best. It was 6 innings, but he gave up 7 base hits, 5 total runs, 4 of those were earned, and 2 home runs to go with it. The home run ball has hurt him recently. It really didn't at the beginning of the season, but now, his last 5 starts, he's given up at least 1 home run in 4 of those 5 games, and the Oakland A's are 1-4 in his last 5 starts as well. I got to go with the Philadelphia Phillies in this game on the run line. I trust their offense more. I think Phillips is the better option to start this game, and the bullpen as well. Next up, the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Gavin Williams and Zach Littell are your starters. I know Littell's not been great recently, but a lot of his recent starts were on the road, and when you look at the home and road splits, he's just been a lot more competitive at Tropicana Field, similar to a guy like Taj Bradley or a guy like Zach Eflin. And when you look at on the road, a 5.53 ERA, but also a 340 opponent's batting average, very, very steep compared to at home, an ERA at 3.57 and an opponent's batting average at 250. He's well under a strikeout per inning on the road, above a strikeout per inning at Tropicana Field. He's just been a lot more competitive when he's pitching at home. I think he pitches well enough here for the Rays to grab the win. Gavin Williams, his first start was miserable. His second start was excellent, but the Guardians didn't back him up in either of those games. The Guardians are 0-2 in his first 2 starts. I got to go with the Tampa Bay Rays in this one in the money line. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Luis Gil and Grayson Rodriguez are your starters. Luis Gil bounced back in a big way in that last game against the Red Sox. He went 6 2/3, only 1 run given up and 9 strikeouts to go with it. A lot better than what we saw against the Reds, Mets, and Orioles the 3 previous starts, giving up 7 earned, 5 earned, and 4 earned. But even still, despite pitching well in that game against Boston, the Yankees still lost that one 3-0. They've lost the last 4 now of Luis Gil's starts, and we know the Yankees have just been not great recently. The Orioles, that series against Chicago was really ugly to watch as well, but Grayson Rodriguez is in excellent form. I mean, in 4 of his last 5 starts, he's had a quality start. His strikeout numbers are there. The control's been a lot better. He's doing a better job at limiting sharp contact. No home runs given up the last 2 starts, and the Orioles are 4-1 in its last 5 games. So for me, I think 2 very solid starting pitching options, but it's tough to ignore the fact that Heel gave up 7 earned runs the last time he faced this Orioles lineup. I got to go with the Baltimore Orioles in this game on the money line. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the New York Mets. Ryan Feltner and Christian Scott are your starters. Not my favorite game on the board. I will slightly lean towards the Mets on the run line, but I'll be staying away from this one. The price is just not right. The Rockies have suffered a lot of blowout losses so far on the road, on this road trip, and it's just tough to back them. We know they don't play a really competitive baseball away from Coors. When they're playing at Coors, it's a different story. But Feltner, he's been better recently. His last 2 starts were combined 12 innings of 2-run ball, but both of those games ended up being Rockies losses, one of those being a 6-0 loss. So the offense isn't great away from home. The bullpen's not great in general. And Christian Scott's actually pitched pretty well at the major league level this season, especially at Citi Field. So give me the Mets in this one on the run line. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Boston Red Sox. Seth Lugo and Cutter Crawford are your starters. Seth Lugo's in great form right now. He hasn't faced the toughest strength of schedule, teams like the Rockies, but that was at Coors Field, so pretty impressive quality start. The Marlins, the Athletics, but I still think with Lugo pitching as well as he has, 7-1 on the road with a 2.03 road ERA, it's tough to go against him, at least in the first 5 innings. Cutter Crawford, we've mentioned, giving up a lot of sharp contact recently. Now, his last game, no home runs given up, but that was away from Fenway Park. You return to Fenway Park here, where Crawford's not been as good this season, an ERA above 4 at home compared to a 2.35 on the road. I got to go with the Kansas City Royals in the first 5 innings on the money line at Fenway Park. Next up, we see the Miami Marlins taking on the Cincinnati Reds. Edward Cabrera and Andrew Abbott are your starters. Abbott's in great form right now. He's given up 3 earned runs or fewer his last 5 starts. And while at one point he wasn't pitching too deep into ball games, we see the last 2 starts, 6 1/3 innings of 1-run ball and then 7 innings of shutout baseball with 8 strikeouts against the Rockies. And while that was the Rockies away from Coors, not a great lineup, the Marlins have also not been great against lefties in the last month. They're ranked 27th in isolated power, 28th in team OPS, and have a strikeout rate of 26.4%. So I like this matchup for Andrew Abbott. And Edward Cabrera's got a lot of potential, and we've seen him pitch well, but the injuries have piled up, and now we see him so far in 25 innings, an ERA above 6.8. He's been even worse on the road, and I just can't trust him in this spot at Great American. He's having issues giving up the long ball in his last 4 starts at Great American, and we know that's a big problem. So give me the Reds in this one on the run line. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Houston Astros. Nathan Eovaldi and Spencer Arrighetti are your starters. With Eovaldi pitching in the AL West the last couple of years, he's of course faced the Astros quite a few times. And, he had mixed results last season. He had really good outings in the postseason where it really counts. And, that was along the way of the Rangers World Series run. But he struggled at times in the regular season against Houston. And so far this year, he had 1 start against them back on April 14th at Minute Maid Park. And it was one of his weakest starts of the year. He went 6 innings, 8 base hits, 5 earned runs, a couple of home runs, a couple of walks as well. Now, you do wonder if he was 100% at that time. We know he didn't pitch much in the month of May. So, that could be, certainly a possibility. But right now, he's in great form. In his last 2 starts, his first 2 games of July, 14 innings combined of 2-run ball with a 1.29 ERA, 2 victories for the Rangers as well. For me, this is a tough matchup for him because it's on the road where he's already struggled this year against an Astros team that's hit the ball well against righties in the last month. And I don't love the fact that Eovaldi in the last 3 games, his last 3 starts, less than a strikeout per inning in all 3 of those games. And I do think Eovaldi's more of a strikeout-dependent guy than most starting pitchers in Major League Baseball, so that is a concern. Arrighetti's been a slightly better starting pitcher at Minute Maid Park this season. He's had a few rough outings, ugly outings, where he's given up a ton of runs in 1 start, but outside of those ugly games, he's been able to put together a pretty good campaign for a rookie at the Major League level. For me, I trust the Astros lineup a little bit more against a right-handed pitcher right now, and I also think they have the better bullpen by a pretty significant margin. So I'm going to go with the Astros on the money line at Minute Maid Park. Next up, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Mitchell Parker and Dallas Keuchel, a pair of lefties on the mound in this one. Now, Keuchel, he looked like he had a great start on paper in that last game against the Dodgers. I say on paper because it was 4 1/3 innings of shutout baseball. That's exactly what you're looking for if you're the Brewers, and he's been a winning machine so far this season. The Brewers are 3-0 in his first 3 starts. However, in that game against LA, he gave up 3 base hits, he had no strikeouts, and he had 5 walks given up as well. So the pitch count was way up there early on. The Dodgers had plenty of opportunities. They just could not hit with runners in scoring position or runners on base. And Keuchel was able to get away with, a decent start on paper. But you look at the expected numbers, so far a 4.6 ERA, but a 5.46 expected ERA, 6.46 FIP. I do expect big-time regression going forward for Keuchel, and I think this is a good spot to take Washington at a good price. The Brewers have not been special against left-handed pitching offensively in the last 30 days. Neither has Washington, but they do have a very low strikeout rate. I think they can take advantage of Keuchel in this one. Give me the Nationals on the money line. Next up, we see the Atlanta Braves taking on the San Diego Padres. Reynaldo Lopez and Matt Waldron are your starters. Waldron's pitched well this year, and while his ERA is a little bit steeper at Petco Park than on the road, you look at the last 4 home starts for Waldron, all quality starts, and in fact, he hasn't given up more than 3 earned runs in a home game since April 29th, so it was really because of the early season home struggles that have really pushed that ERA to above 4, but he's pitched well at Petco ever since, and I think he pitches well in this game. The Braves have not been that great against right-handed pitching in the last 30 days. We know their series against Arizona, they were, so-so offensively. They didn't do anything against Brandon Pfaadt. Even Yolber Diaz in his Major League debut was pretty strong in that one. So I think Waldron pitches well. Lopez pitched really well in that last game against the Phillies. However, he was given a big lead early in that game. We saw the Braves score 5 runs in the second inning. It's a lot easier to pitch when you got a 5-0 lead for a guy like Lopez, and he's pitched really well, nothing to take away from his game, but a 1.71 ERA, a 4.26 expected ERA, very, that's more than 2 runs steeper than his current ERA. We do worry about regression going forward. To me, the value firmly lies with the Padres in this one. Give me San Diego on the money line. Next up, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the San Francisco Giants. Simeon Woods Richardson and Hayden Birdsong are your starters. I like both of these options in this game in terms of starting pitching. Woods Richardson, nothing flashy about his game, a 3.48 ERA, though, overall this season. 77 2/3 innings, doesn't really earn a lot of strikeouts, but he's also pretty consistent. He's given up, usually gives up about 3 runs per game, and that's usually good enough to keep the Twins competitive, especially recently with how well their offense has been. I mean, last game, 6 innings, 2 runs against the Astros. Twins go on to win 3-2. Previous start, 5 2/3, 3 runs. Wasn't his best outing against Detroit, but it's good enough to keep Minnesota competitive. They win that game 5-3. And in fact, the Twins are now 4-1 in Woods Richardson's last 5 starts. They have a good bullpen and an obviously red-hot lineup behind them. I think that Woods Richardson does enough in this game to give the Twins the victory. I mean, Birdsong's pitched well. I actually think he's got a lot of potential. I like the fact he's got over a strikeout per inning already in his first 3 Major League starts. But I'm going to go with the Minnesota Twins in this game on the money line. Next up, we see the Seattle Mariners taking on the Los Angeles Angels. George Kirby and Jose Soriano are your starters. I like both of these starting pitching options in this game. Soriano's been not great at home this season, and especially in the home night games, and that concerns me a little bit, but this is also Mariners offense that, while it's looked a little bit more competitive recently, still has a very high strikeout rate, and I think Soriano can put together a good outing. George Kirby on this side, we've mentioned that he's not been great on the road this season. However, his last 2 road games were excellent. 13 innings combined against the Rays and the Mariners. He only gave up 3 runs in those 2 starts, so he's dropped that road ERA to 4.11, which is serviceable. I'm going to go with the under in this Mariners-Angels game. I think both starting pitchers pitch well. The bullpens do enough here to get us under the total. And the final game we're going to talk about for the Saturday card of Major League Baseball, it's the Toronto Blue Jays and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Jose Barrios and Yolber Diaz are your starters. I like the opposite in this game. I like the over at Chase Field. Hitter-friendly ballpark. You got Yolber Diaz, who pitched well in his Major League debut, but did give up a lot of sharp contact in that game. Gave up a home run to Austin Riley. He has great strikeout stuff, but I do think he misses inside the zone a little bit too much. I think the Blue Jays can take advantage of it. Jose Barrios at Chase Field. I don't love this matchup for him. He's not been great on the road this season. Even in his last game where he racked up 10 strikeouts against Seattle, he still gave up 7 base hits, 4 earned runs, and 2 home runs at a very pitcher-friendly ballpark at T-Mobile Park. Giving up 2 bombs, not really what you want to see. I don't trust either of these bullpens. We know both of these bullpens capable of giving up plenty of runs themselves. So give me the over in Toronto, Arizona. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.